Hey everyone! Now I know a bunch of you are probably waiting for another update on the little Unimog 421 project, but I'm not quite done with that video yet, so here's a little filler episode for you. Because I do have a hopefully small project to take care of on my old Ford here, and that is the buckets, both the front one and the rear one, because there is quite a lot of play in both of them, and it's not because of normal wear. So let me go ahead and get it out of this hedge and show you what's going on. Alright, so starting up here at the front bucket, we have quite a bit of play in this. And I had a quick look at it, and it honestly looked like it just has the wrong size pins in the lower mount here. Now, I have some theories about that. I haven't taken it apart yet, but I don't think this is the original bucket for this machine. I think it had one of those 4-in-1 buckets, the opening buckets, because it does have the hydraulic fittings for that up here. And it just looks kind of weird on the machine, so I don't think it was made specifically for this machine. And my guess is that the original pins that go in this arm may have been too big to fit through this outer collar here. And that's probably why they've shoved in some that were even smaller than that. So they are definitely too small for the hole in here. I'm not sure about that. It might be that the hole in there is the same size as this and those were just the pins they had. I don't really know. What I can tell when I look in here, well, I don't really think I can get that on camera. No. But I can see that the pin is very worn inside of that hole because it's so loosely fitted in there. So I'm going to take that apart and have a closer look at what's going on here. I'm probably going to end up having to make some new pins for this lower mount on that bucket. And for this bucket on the rear, again, I don't think this is the original bucket because the mountings look a bit weird. You can see that they've put in these extra bushings to make the holes fit these pins. Problem is that the welding they've done on here is, well, pretty much useless. It's not really holding these in place, and that means that the one over here is completely missing. So there is a huge gap in between this pin and the bucket. That's really no good because when I'm using this, I can see that the whole bucket is just misaligning with the arm and it's putting a whole lot of tension on that pin, and eventually this is just gonna break. So I'm gonna have to do something about that. I'm not going to make a big deal of it. I'm just going to make a bushing to fill up this gap so that it'll fit this pin again. I should probably just say that I know there is a proper way to do this job where you weld the thing back up and you line bore it and you get new pins and bushings and all that good stuff. But I don't have access to all those fancy tools and I've never used them, so I'm not going to claim I know how to. And paying someone to do that job on this old machine just wouldn't make sense. This is not going to be a precision machine ever again. There is plenty of slop everywhere else as well. So I just need to fix this up to where it won't tear itself apart and break down. So I'm not going to put huge effort into it. I just need to make it good enough for this old machine. So let's get these buckets off. bolt is so mangled. Nope. See if that was enough. Ah, yes. There we go. Haha. Okay, so, this looks kind of like something inappropriate, and also this is a lot more worn than I initially thought it would be. And it's definitely too small for this. This was never the right pin to begin with. And also, it looks very rusty, if this camera would focus on that. Which tells me that my grease never even made it into this, so I'm probably also going to have to do something about the grease fitting up there. But, honestly, the holes are not looking terrible. They're really not oval or anything weird like that. So, I think the plan is that I am just going to make some new pins to go into this thing and fix up the grease fittings, and then we're probably just going to call it good on this end. And as for the rear bucket, I think I'm just going to clean this up real quick, and we're going to take this off as well, and we're going to load it in the Humvee, and I'm going to take this thing with me to work, because I'm going to have to go out there anyway to borrow the lathe to make those new pins for the front, and also to make that bushing that I'm missing here. So we may as well do the welding and cleaning up of this part out there as well. Because, well, it's getting dark and cold here, so it's just going to be more comfortable to do the work out there. I had this bucket off recently, so this should come apart a little better than the front one. Well, it's not like this side is going to bind up. Or maybe it will. Aha! I have no idea if these small loops are gonna hold this, but let's just try not to crash. That's not going anywhere. Alright, so I think I'm going to start by making this bushing that I'm missing on my rear bucket here. Because I do think that's going to be the quickest and easiest part of this, as I managed to find a piece of scrap that has almost the right dimensions for what I need. I'm just going to make it to match the one over here. So I want my inner diameter to be 46, and the inner diameter of this piece is already 46. Now it does get a little bit thicker down in there, but I also don't need it to be very wide. It only has to be, let's see, 36 at most. So I only need a little piece of this. So I am going to have to turn the inside a little bit, but this whole part is already right where it has to be. And as for the outer diameter, I want it to be, let's see, 61. And this piece is 63. So I really don't have to take a whole lot off this thing. Nice. It's not quite all the way in there. There's some burrs and stuff on the back here. So I'm going to clean this hole up a little bit so we can get this all the way in, and we're just going to weld it in place and call this good. Just want to get this in here, make sure it's aligned well enough. And yeah, there is still some play in it out here, but really that's because this shaft is worn right here where it had all that play in it, so it's been banging against the sides of this a little bit. Now, I could go and make some new shafts, but this is really not bad enough that I want to be spending that much time doing that. This is good enough for me, and it's much better than it was. So that's really the first part of this project done. I'm pretty happy with that. That's going to be a big improvement. So now we're just going to make some new pins for that front bucket. So these were definitely never the right pins to begin with. I measured the machine and it seems that the pins that were supposed to be in here should have been 1.5 inch. So that is just over 38 millimeters. And if I measure these at a point where they are not completely worn, these are only 30. So they were too small to begin with, no doubt about that. But now that they are this worn, the thinnest part is 25 millimeters. So these are 13 millimeters too small. That's going to make a big difference. Now, I was trying to find some steel to make these with, and I found this. And I do like to repurpose old scrap parts like this. This is the drive shaft from a Scania truck that was scrapped. And I'm not entirely sure what this stuff is made from, but I know that it's fairly hard steel, but not so hard that it's brittle. This still has to have a little bit of give in it so that it works kind of like a torsion bar. It can twist a little before it snaps, so it has a little bit of give, but it's still harder than just regular mild steel. So I think I'm going to try to make them from this. The only problem is I've never tried machining one of these shafts, so I don't really know how difficult it's going to be. I know that the ends where those splines are, they are hardened, so I'm just going to chop that off, and we're going to put this in the lathe and, well, just see what happens. Unfortunately, this is quite a bit thicker than I need. I think this is about 50 millimeters, so I am going to have to take a good bit off. But yeah, let's just try it and see how it goes. All right. Oh no. Well, I guess I'm cutting the other end as well. Now, let's try this again. Oh yes, it just fits. So, I guess now we're going to see how much of a hassle it is to machine this stuff. Well, let's just start by cleaning up my cut here. Well, it does seem to be eating it just fine, so it's not super hard. That's nice. All right, let's see if it'll eat this. That's really not too bad. All that smoking, that's from the oil that I put on it. It doesn't seem like it's running super hot, you know. Well, this was a bit harder than I expected, so it really didn't like me taking any more than like a millimeter at a time. So this took quite a while, but there we go, 38 millimeters. Nice. Right, well, that certainly took a bit longer than I expected, but here we go. Now we just need a bolt hole at the end of this thing, and this one is done. I did fear that this was going to be very difficult to drill, but it does seem to be taking it quite nicely. Here we go. Can you spot the difference? Now we just got to make another one. Now don't worry, I'm not going to make you watch all of this stuff again. Right, so first of all, let's just check. Oh yes, that is nice. Still a little bit of play, but that's all right, that's what I wanted. You still have to be able to get these in and out, and also you need a little bit of room for some grease in there, so this is perfect. That is going to be so much better. But before I start mounting all this stuff, we just have to take care of all these grease fittings here. I think I'm just going to have to take them out and put a drill through all the holes just to make sure there is a hole. And yeah, these things are completely rusty, so I'm going to replace all those. All of these things are just solid in there. It's no wonder I couldn't get anything through that. All right, that's going to make a big difference that we can actually get some grease in there. Well, the one back here wasn't working either. It's also just a rusty lump. Figured I'd just bring you in for a little first-person view up here. Ah, yeah. There we go. That is so much better. So now I just gotta see if I can catch this thing again. That's gonna be a bit more trickier than the rear bucket, because this one is not very easy to try and push around by hand. So I'm gonna have to be pretty spot on with this. And I have 2 points to catch at the same time. I just brought you in here again so you can get a better idea of how little of this stuff I can see from in here. Well, luckily, that was hardly any trouble at all. You know, I was already thinking about getting some kind of quick attach out here, but now I see that's really the only way to do it if you plan on having several attachments for this. Well, that took long enough that it got dark again. That seems to be a reoccurring theme in my videos lately. So yeah, let's just wait till tomorrow before we take this thing down and test it out. All right, good enough. Let's go. right, people, this seems to have been a nice improvement on this old machine. Now I feel much better about using it for digging, knowing that the shovels are not about to fall off. So I'm really glad I got this taken care of. I hope you enjoyed this little project. Thank you all for watching along, and we'll see you in the next one.